Welcome to video number 2. I have realized, just based on how much we have left, that it'll probably be 3, it could be potentially 4 videos. So I'm sure I will have already let you know in the email, but just to be aware of that way I make sure you get all of the information. But one of the things that I did not say in the first video is that you do not have to have this video of me present while you are listening to this. This is just the function of an audio recording. That way you're not just looking at these slides with no kind of reference. So just, you can put me behind the PowerPoint. I know I have done so I don't have to look at myself while I talk through this. Okay, so we're going to start with slide 6. This is going to be a very important slide to start this video off on, which is going to be your thesis statement for your third speech. So your second one was a little bit more challenging because there was a lot of information to include. That's not going to be the case here. It's going to be pretty easy. It'll be something along the lines of motivating your audience through you should do this specific action, okay? It doesn't have to be specifically you should, but something along those lines. It can also just be you should do this thing, right? It's a bit weird because you're not actually going to be talking to the class. You're just going to be talking to me. So, but still pretend that you're talking as if you were talking in front of this entire class. So still adapt your speech to attend to the audience beliefs and values of this specific class as if you had been in person, okay? So you're going to include in your thesis the action that you want to take that has to be in there, okay? Know that your speech is going to kind of have to take into account these things at the bottom of the slide, which is that people are going to be moved by several different things. One, they're going to be moved primarily by emotional responses, so the speech is going to be more pathos heavy than probably the other 2 speeches were, okay? So not only are they moved by their emotions, but they're also moved by their beliefs, the things they want and desire, fears and insecurities, hopes and dreams, right? So people are moved by emotions, but they're also moved by the things that they hold to be true, but also what they feel obligated that they should do based on those beliefs too. Okay, so keep those things in mind as you go through the speech inventional process, okay? So your inventional task is to analyze your audience to determine which motivating features will kind of get them to partake in this action that you've asked them to do. So you want to pick some sort of action that is easy enough that they're going to want to do it, right? So asking your audience to go down to DC to protest in front of the White House, it's going to be very challenging, right? One, you might have an audience that doesn't believe in doing that because they support the president, or getting people to take time off and travel all the way down to DC can be much harder than maybe protesting at Main Mall, right? So that's closer and more feasible, costs less money, things like that will be worth considering. But you also don't want to do something that is so easy that they are going to do it, right? Like sign a petition, but that doesn't actually really do anything, right? So you have to strike this very challenging balance between something that's easy enough that they'll do it, but not so easy that the task or that the problem doesn't actually get alleviated. Okay, so that's something to think about. You want this action to actually make a difference here. So the way that we will be doing that, and if you move on to slide 7, is through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So this is going to be the main place that you draw your content from, or that helps you not organize your speech, but comes up with the content to incorporate into your speech. So for the arrangement, you will have a very specific arrangement structure that we will talk about in Wednesday's lecture that you all have to follow. And then for the inventional stage and for the actual content, you do need to include at least 2 needs from Maslow's hierarchy that we will be talking about today. Okay, so people have very specific needs. Each of us possesses a set of fundamental needs from physiological to self-actualization. So I do expect you to know everything that's on this pyramid. So I expect you to know the 5 different parts of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from physiological, safety, social, esteem, and self-actualization, as well as the order that they go in. This order matters, okay? Each of these you cannot have, you cannot have safety without establishing physiological needs. You cannot have esteem without achieving social, safety, physiological, right? So you have to move up this pyramid to achieve self-actualization. You have to achieve everything else, okay? So each of us possesses a set of fundamental needs, and we need to achieve those needs to get to self-actualization. And so what your goal as a speaker is to try and show us that this problem that you have identified is preventing your audience from achieving self-actualization because it's depriving them of achieving specific needs, okay? And so those needs are going to be 2 from this pyramid. You're probably going to realize that self-actualization is not going to be one of the needs that you appeal to, just because self-actualization assumes that you've achieved everything, so that undercuts your own problem that you're talking about. So it's going to be from one of the 4 below that, okay, or from 2 of the 4 below that. Sorry. All right, so we're going to go through each of these, and I'll give you some examples. They're going to be pretty straightforward, but if you have questions that maybe I don't bring up, you can just send me an email, and we can talk through email or through office hours, and we'll figure it out. Okay. So your first need is going to be physiological, right? So this is going to be things like having access to food, as well as clean and safe drinking water. You have to have food and water to live. So without that, you're not going to be able to achieve anything else. Self-actualization is just a far-off concept. Okay? You also need access to shelter, and you also have to achieve specific biological requirements, which is a weird way to say that there are specific things in your everyday life that basically keep you healthy. So one of the things that I think makes sense in this situation is the fact that in some Penn State dorms you don't have air conditioning in your room. Air conditioning keeps your body temperature low, or keeps it low enough that you don't get sick or get overheated, and keeps you at a good temperature to be able to focus on your schoolwork and just getting through the day-to-day, right? So if it's September and it's still really hot and you're on the 4th floor of a dorm and you don't have AC, it's going to be a lot harder for you to achieve the physiological need, because you're going to be overheated, and it's going to keep you from being focused on your schoolwork, right? So that can be an issue that you can appeal to, right, if you were talking about this as a problem on campus. But it can also include things like getting your audience to turn off their lights when they're not using them, because you're talking about how turning off your lights leads to saving energy, which then gives us the ability to heat and cool our homes. That can also count as biological. Okay, so when you're thinking of food and water and shelter, you're not so much thinking of access for the people, for other people. It's going to be tailored to your audience's ability to access food, water, and shelter. Okay, so that might not be as self-evident as some of the other needs that we talk about, but for some of you, that could easily apply. Okay, so think creatively here if you want to. Right, so that is my apologies, there we go. That is physiological, right? So, how much time have I been talking? 9 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to get through maybe 1 to 2 more slides, and we'll move on to video 3. Alright, on to slide 9. So, we talked about biological safety, physiological safety in the first one. So the next one is, once you have gotten your food and your water and your good air conditioning, you also have to achieve physical safety, okay? Not physiological, but physical safety, right? So these are things like security, right? So your ability to move around your campus or your hometown with kind of ease of knowing that you are safe, right? So I had a student last semester who, she was an RA, and she talked about campus security, and so she had her students, or not her students, she had her audience watch a video by Stand for State, which helps you think and talk about sexual assault on campus and how to prevent it, and approach talking about that with your loved ones. It can also include things like financial stability and stability in your home life. Okay. And let's see, freedom from fear. So that ties a lot into like physical security. So do you feel safe in your home? Do you feel safe in your city? And just feeling safe in your different living environment. Okay. So this can be things like physical safety, but you can also think of like financial safety here if you would like, because financial stability can also be applied to all of these too, right? If you don't have financial stability, you're not going to have freedom from fear, and you're not going to feel like you have security in your everyday life. Okay, so that is that one. I will, let's see, how many slides do I have left? Okay, I'm going to get through one more, and then I will get this in 3 videos. Alright, so moving on to slide 10 is the third step of this pyramid, which is social. Okay, so now that yourself has been like taken care of, both with physiological and physical safety, you can start to think about your social interactions. So starting to think more outward, right? Or you're having your audience think about that. So every person has social needs. So these can be things like social acceptance and being able to be affectionate and having affection with friends, and as well as intimacy. So all of these includes relationships with your friends, relationships with your family, and then if you have a partner or spouse, things like that count too. Okay, so you'll notice that a lot of like motivational product ads appeal to the social need. So they would link like the use of a product to social needs, like popularity and being part of a group, right? So cologne, being able to smell good, deodorant, having nice cars, toothpaste so your breath smells good, all of that ties in. These little tiny things tie into your social needs and feeling like you are part of a group, being attractive or desirable. I don't know how much that's going to apply to y'all's problem policies that you've been talking about. Or having a satisfying like family, love, friendship life, things like that. Okay. So some of the different examples to think through this could be things, so if we talk about sexual assault in the previous slide with safety, it can also apply here, right? So if there is a prevalent sexual assault, like statistics on campus, and there's a high occurrence of that, that means that it's going to have a huge impact on how you interact with your friends, and your family, and even your partners, right? That's going to affect all of your social relationships by making it a lot harder to have stable social connections, just because you can become withdrawn, and it can be particularly traumatic, right? So think about those in terms of social, but also things like being active on campus and participating in campus activities very much appeals to the social need. Okay, so if you've got like Penn State related issues that you've been talking about, I imagine that in some way it probably applies to the social need here. Okay, all right. Kind of blowing through this, but I want to make sure that you've got it. I can't ask if any of y'all have questions, right? But you're always welcome. If you feel like I'm blowing through these too fast, you can always pause and just take a step back and think through these as well, okay? But we're going to stop here, and then in video 3, I will finish us out here, right?